What's up, my know-it-alls? That's right, it's time for a brand new Star Wars Disney Plus series. Specifically, we're talking about Andor, episodes 1, 2, and 3. And that's exactly what they're called, episodes 1, 2, and 3. Here we go. Yeah, man. So this is the brand new show we're going to be doing, which is obviously Mr. Know-it-all Reviews, the show Andor on Disney Plus. And joining me, of course,
More Star Wars.
our Star Wars fan here. This
is amazing for me right now, just to let you know.
Yeah.
I like these are stories that I'm excited about.
This is an era that we have not seen in a long time in terms of like how this glut of Star Wars, and it's not them ramming some prequel or sequel or whatever down our throat.
They're prequels and sequels. They're all original stories, but these are like real original stories that, you know what I mean? They're just more stories, more and more stories, which is what I'm learning to love about what they're doing with the Star Wars franchise.
So just like with Obi-Wan Kenobi, as well as some of the other shows that have come out recently, Disney Plus decided to put out the first 3 episodes today on the first day. Now, that's having now watched all 3, and if you haven't, what are you doing here? But having watched all 3, the one thing that we have agreed on is that you had to have these 3 episodes. So we have a rule in our house that any show you're going to start watching or someone recommends whatever, give it to at least the 3rd episode.
Yes.
By the 3rd episode, most shows know what they want to be, know the story they're going to tell, and are able to articulate that well enough that by the 3rd episode you go, oh, I'm in. Mm-hmm. I'm down for the ride. Yeah. So that's what they've essentially kind of compacted. So this first, if you add up the run times, like 49 minutes, 32 minutes, and like 46 minutes, something like that. The total, it's about an hour 40, hour and a half, somewhere in there. And so at the end of the day, this was in and of itself a 2-hour introductory origin story movie for Cassian Andor. So the series starts with us getting a really clear look at the character of Cassian, who is somewhat of a wandering soul. We go back and forth between the past on a planet I believe called Kenari, thank you, and the present, which is on a different place, which is actually, it's like a corporate world.
I called it something really goofy too.
No, it's all good. But,
I do like, while you're looking that up, I do like the way they're doing the jump back and forth. We're getting like the real like how he became who he was starting as a child. And I appreciate the way they're doing that jump. It blends very nicely. Nicely.
And what I did like was there's also a mirroring that's happening. So it's very reminiscent of anybody who saw the Arrow seasons 1, 2, and 3, and then eventually up to 5, where Arrow kept going back and forth between his origin story years and the present, and how the stories would often parallel. It's kind of what's happening. So in the past, you see he's part of a village of children. That's the only way I can call it.
There are adults, but
I see older kids. I didn't see many adults.
No, I agree with you. No, and I think they just focused on these children, though. I don't think that they're just a village of children, because I believe in the beginning, when they saw the craft, there were adults.
Okay.
Briefly, but I think they've focused more on these children as a whole.
Right on. Well, either way. So what ends up happening is that the in the past, the kids see a ship crash, and ultimately, as you go back and forth with Cassian in the present, the kids are essentially going to get together their little Lord of the Flies clan group with these giant staves that are actually they're blow darts, and so they're all ready and they're all going, and they head toward wherever this ship thing is. That's what's happening in the past. So in the present, Cassian is looking for, you find out very quickly, he goes to like a pleasure house, if you will, and he finds the hostess who is he asks her for information about a Kenari girl. He allegedly, by what he has said, he's looking for his sister. Mm-hmm. I don't know how true that is, because I don't know that he's a reliable narrator. And by that I mean Cassian we know to be a liar. We know to be a scoundrel of the highest order. Not in a bad way. I'm not giving him like anti-hero status.
Oh.
But at the same time, he's essentially this series is Han Solo. He's a guy who's dealing with who's grown up roughly in the streets and has had to deal with some stuff, and now he's dealing with how to kind of traverse a lot of what's going on. During an encounter, he runs into a security force for the corporation that runs that planet. And at the end of the day, these guys are going to try to kind of, what did he say? They're going to try to shake him down.
Yeah.
And through this and that,
shaking me down.
he fights back against one. The guy falls and dies.
Yeah.
Now he's stuck with this other guy who's literally like, we'll go together. We'll go in together. Tell him it was an accident. This whole thing. And Cassian, without remorse, without thought, kills the guy.
And I jumped.
Yeah,
I was not expecting that to happen at all. I was like, woo!
Yeah, no, it was hilarious because I was like, wow. It was a very visceral response for her. Where I was more like, I'm more into, okay. See, because you got to remember, we all know where Cassian's come from.
Right.
We saw Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
Rogue One's where he's going to end up going. Now we're reversing that. So like, going backwards. You know what I'm saying? And sorry about that. I know the rewind caught you by surprise. But so literally what ends up happening is that he has to now face these demons. There's more. You know what? We'll get into what we start talking about. Let me finish the recap. Because remember, there's a recap and review. So the recap is very, at the end of the day, the first episode more or less ends with him having to realize he's got to get off the planet. So the second episode we come into, you roll right in, and he ends up having to. And by the way, we're gonna do the rating for all three together because they drop them together. So I don't want to individualize the whole thing. So we're taking all three first episodes as one chunk. So what happens is he ends up going to visit people who you assume are some relatives. Mm-hmm. There's a weird kind of tension, and everyone treats him like he's the guy who gets in trouble a lot and everything else. We don't know enough about his current world, but I'm almost It feels like this scenario was one more thing too much, but I don't know what all the other stuff was. So, but I'm okay.
Yeah, I think you hit it. I think he's a well-known
dirtbag.
Yeah, I don't want to say thief. I don't want to say bum. I don't want to say hobo. I don't want to say any of that.
He's a Star Wars hobo.
You know, I don't want to say any of that, but he's definitely got a pass, especially when it comes to Bix, who we meet.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love Bix.
Bix at one point goes, "What did you do?" You know.
Obviously, Diego Luna plays our main character Cassian. Andrea Arjona plays Bix Colleen, and I really like Bix. I really like Bix also. Mm-hmm. I kind of hope Bix stays on and does some stuff. Yeah. The other thing is, it's funny. So out the gate, you see Cassian's working aboard a ship. You know, he's fixing some stuff, doing some things, and we get our first introduction to the droid so far of the show because every Star Wars has to have one.
I'm on the fence on this one.
His name is B2EMO. It's B2EMO. B2EMO. And he's somewhat these like melancholy, like, I don't know, it's just very funny. And then of course Fiona Shaw plays a character named Marva, who is someone very important to Cassian. You do find out later on in episode 3, and we can just, again, we're kind of mixing the whole story of this it's one story we're treating it like. Marva is with some people who are there to go through and loot the crashed ship. Now the kids show up at the ship. There's some people who've been infected or something. They're yellow skinned.
They're all yellow.
It looks like they were trying to have some air masks on or something. Either the yellow is their species, but I tend to want to lean more toward the yellow is something. Yeah, only because they don't look totally yellow. They look like sick yellow, like yellow in the face, yellow in parts of their arms. It
jaundice. They look almost jaundice.
There you go. Absolutely. So what you end up with is he goes and investigates further into the ship. He sees his reflection and then gets angry by it.
And freaks out because they've never seen the reflection before. It's such a primitive tribe.
Right.
That first of all, the ship itself freaked them out, so to speak. Yeah. And then as he goes into the ship, he sees things that he's never seen before. All the computers and then his reflection. It's very, I would assume, very overwhelming.
I agree. I imagine, especially because you figure at this point he's never seen himself. Yeah. So he then that's when Marva shows up with her partner, this another gentleman who they're looking for stuff to steal and not steal, but to salvage. They're salvagers. But the Republic is obviously sending someone after the ship. So they Cassian, who can't speak. So it's funny what they've done with the species of this race. Cassian's naturally, he's Hispanic, a Latino person in real life, but in a galaxy far, far away, they're Canary. And the Canary, they give them a language that's very reminiscent of Spanish. I'm Puerto Rican, so I have an ear, I'm listening to this and I'm like, I can hear where they took the Spanishy Latin influence to that language, that alien language. The other thing is, they only ever say speaking Canary in the subtitles.
We don't know what they're saying.
Right. I'm used to them. I'm used to, if you're going to have people speaking an alien language, you're going to give them some dialogue or words to say. Like, we're going to see what's happening underneath. Yeah. Just so you get the idea.
I kind of like it, and it kind of gets a little annoying, but at the same time, it's like, it's just leaving us, some mystery that...
True.
That I think it's appropriate. It's not like, dead ends or something like that.
No, not at all. So then you get into he goes and sees Bix. He talks to her. He keeps alleging he's got this special kind of box. It's like a Star Cruiser liner, something or other. It's basically something that would allow someone to triangulate the location of all of the Imperial people in the sector or whatever. It's a important piece of technology. There's a person who Bix has told Cassian before is interested in meeting him.
It's the guy.
the guy, and the guy turns out to be no spoiler or no surprise spoilers if you haven't seen the show again. Stellan Skarsgård, who plays Luthen Rail. Luthen Rail is I believe, based on what we're seeing, he seems like either a recruiter, for what's going to be the rebellion, or just some sort of like I said, talent scout, or some guy higher up placed who's out looking for people to be
just like him.
Yeah. And he does a really he tracks him down. Meanwhile, I get back up. Go ahead.
So
go ahead.
He killed those two people, and the Imperial
It's an Imperial. It's the corporate security.
Thank you. Corporate security, and they don't want to draw attention, to the Imperial forces. So,
and the chief inspector, the real one,
the
boss, he tells him flat out, "Hi." So apparently Rose has decided she wants to be on the show. So Rose Know-It-All, everyone. He tells him flat out. He goes. He reviews the whole thing. And by the way, the actual chief inspector guy gets it. He's like, these guys were a place they weren't supposed to be, doing things they weren't supposed to be doing. They, no doubt, got into a fight, probably picked on someone, whatever, and this guy, they annoyed the wrong guy, and he killed him.
Which is exactly what happened.
That's almost,
legit.
Which one should tell you that the actual chief inspector is someone with experience, is someone who understands people and sees things. He's the right guy to be running things, but he just so happens to have to go to an Imperial review. Which is going to take him off-world and out of pocket, which means he leaves it in charge with this younger guy who's got a lot of zeal, who's like, security forces were killed, we have to do an investigation, and dude's like, just chill your roll, man. Just calm down.
This is not an important thing. Right. We don't want the Imperial to come back. We don't want any of that nonsense.
Right. Don't want to draw attention. So what ends up happening is, dude draws attention. He literally does the opposite of what he's supposed to do.
Not horrific, but if you want to draw attention, this was the way to do it.
Absolutely. And in the end, he does end up with the help of some other people and other forces of his own. They end up tracking down Cassian, and specifically they find Marva. And so they've got these two teams. Cassian's already talking to Luthen. Mm-hmm. There's a whole confluence of things that are starting to kind of come together and converge. And what you get is this dope gun shootout between Luthen, Cassian, and the initial, because they've broken up into groups, the initial group that's at the door. And dude blows up the door first, and then he's there. It's this pew, 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 pew.
It was a Star Wars shootout that you like. It's one of those,
it was great.
Behind the metal and come out and boo, boo, boo.
Oh, totally. No, things blowing up.
Oh, yeah, it was that. But you know what was really cool? Right before all of that?
Yeah.
When the the guards were going through, the pattern of like
yes.
sound.
So as soon as the soldiers showed up.
They were doing we decided because it says in pattern.
Right. So in groups throughout the area, some guys are like doing knock knock chunk chunk knock knock chunk chunk, and other guys are doing chunk 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 knock chunk 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 knock, and we're like thinking maybe it's the areas, maybe it's whatever, and then she figures out maybe it's code.
Yeah. And then they during all that they switched to Marva, and Marva says, this is the sound of reconciliation, of a reckoning.
Yeah, reckoning.
And he goes, don't worry about the sound. It's when it stops that you have to worry.
Yeah, and
then it stops. It is dead silent, and all the guards are like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, it's great. So they made Cassian and Dude manage. He finds out that they have a ship. They're held up in a little garagey area. They end up putting some bombs on a car, sending a car as a decoy, and then they go shooting off on a speeder, heading off into the far off area to find Luthen's ship. They get on the ship. And ultimately, they do escape. There's a whole lot of stuff that happens there on the ground. Yeah. At the end of the day, I like this beginning. I enjoyed it. It felt very much like Rogue One, and we'll circle back to Rogue One in a bit. I really enjoyed the Rogue One connection in that this felt like that tone.
Yes.
I was really excited about that.
Probably by the end of whether it be the series or the season. I don't know how many seasons we're getting. Do we know how many seasons of Andor we're getting?
Right now, they're just starting with one to start with for now.
I think by the end of whatever series or season, it's going to back right up into Rogue One.
He's Tony Gilroy, who's the guy who's same people who had their hands in Rogue One are working on this too, and they had more story to tell. One of the featurettes, if you have Disney Plus and you haven't watched it yet, please go watch the featurettes. They're amazing. I think they're also available here on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it talks about how Tony Gilroy and them figured out and we do learn this in the show. This show takes place, it places itself in time perfectly, 5 years before the Battle of Yavin. That's before Episode 4, A New Hope. And so when they fight the Death Star and Luke and the whole thing, and he gets the little okay.
And I didn't realize how real close that was.
I know.
Like I knew it was like going to back us up to Rogue One, but I didn't realize how close between that. And
I have no doubt we get to the end of the series. However many seasons, 2, 3, 5, because it's supposed to be 5 years. So who knows? Maybe they do one for every year. I don't know, but which would be kind of interesting. But I see them backing literally up to the part where Cassian's meeting that guy on that one planet, because that's the first time we ever saw Cassian in Rogue One. So maybe it ends with him having to go meet that guy.
Yeah.
And then you're you're like, oh, we're right in. And so again, this fits so perfectly that I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying it.
One of the things I had mentioned to you was The Mandalorian had a Western type vibe.
That's right. I tweeted this out actually.
And I feel like they're doing a really good job giving this like a Mission Impossible, 007. There's a lot of secrecy, a lot of, don't tell the person I was here, and a lot of politics taking place, like something you would see in like, I'm not comparing James Bond to Star Wars, please. Don't come at me for that, okay? What I'm saying is...
No, but that espionage-y tone.
Thank you, the espionage tone. Yeah,
I like it.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too, and I feel like that's... I almost... So knowing who we know he's going to become, which is the guy who, when nobody wants to move on... Jyn Ersa's information in Rogue One. He's the guy that with like 45 other guys steps up and is like, hey, we've done things we're not proud of. We need to know it's all for something. What is he talking about? And that's what the series is ultimately giving us is that history. We find out he's had a rough childhood and a rough start, and it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. And in fact, it's going to get more severe. We do learn in these first 3 episodes, he is a person of conviction in that if he feels it needs to happen and be done, he does not think twice. The decision is made, and he goes. Shooting the dude is a prime example. The decisions he makes later on, too, as well. I don't want to spoil everything, so please go watch the episode. They're really well-done episodes. But, okay, so what are some things you didn't like? Did anything jump out at you?
I really couldn't find anything. And you know me, I can be really critical. But I really couldn't find anything. I guess if I had to pick one thing, it would be I wanted to know what they were saying in Canary.
I got
That's
you.
it. I mean, I really
enjoyed.
I really, really liked the way it flowed. I liked the way it all came together. Yeah, I can't really find anything.
It feels like the first. I feel like we've gotten the complete first act of a movie.
Oh,
so
okay.
So in that I am pleasant. I'm in. I don't feel like I know enough of how big the stakes are because I'm trying to take this without. I mean, I know eventually he becomes that guy, but I need to know everything. What I need to understand what's at stake here right now, and so. I couldn't really find a whole lot that I didn't like either. The acting was all good, was excellent for me. You know, you get these little member berries of like the robots and stuff. The Star Wars-isms are there.
All there.
All the stuff. You got the droid. You got Imperial
people. Droid. I don't know. I'm not.
Oh, I loved this. So those of you keen-eyed, when the security patrol force is flying in to do the thing, they're basically on clone trooper transports, which are the ones from Clone Wars. So it's the wings and the thing, and like the one that like Yoda's hanging out of when he shows up in Clone Wars. And so obviously I'm like, when the Empire switched over, I believe it's just a manufacturing thing, like Hummers, like like a Humvee.
Oh yeah,
like how the military buys them and we can get them also. I think it's exactly that kind of thing where this model was probably used for other people to buy for their security forces, even though the Empire eventually rolled into doing other things. So. But it was a cool little, for those of you playing at home, it's a cool little member berry to see that and go, oh yeah, neat. It's the same exact one. And I mean, when you see the profile once it flies in. Anyway, overall, I like what the show's doing. I like what it has set up. I am a little bit tired of starting everywhere on kind of a rustic backwater planet. Just once, I'd love to start on like Coruscant or somewhere populated. You know what I mean? Just give me one civilized place. Otherwise, it's like they're always going to the Old West. They're always the equivalent of that.
But the one jet when they were on when Luthen and that one guy that was on the flight with him.
Yeah, the funny quirky guy.
It was so cute.
He's like a space vacuum cleaner salesman.
Oh
like
my
seriously,
gosh, he totally is.
He even down to having the little hat, like, and it's a legit, but it's pink. They're like, we're gonna Star Warsify this hat that everybody has here on Earth by making it pink. Anyways, the guy's hilarious. Yeah.
But he says if you can't find what you're looking for here, then you can't find it at all. So it's known for tourism.
Sure.
It's just where on the planet is. So it's not too bad. Like when we were in Mandalorian and the one the planet with the krill.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
With the krill. It's only because I remember the fish.
Not Mon Calamari. Was it Mon Calamari or was it a Mon Calamari planet? It was like in the system.
Yeah.
It was in their system. Anyway.
And I said it because they were krill farmers.
That's right. Yeah, no, totally.
So
anyway, so there you go. Now you know. And if knowing is half the battle, you are halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. So, know-it-all indexes for this week. You go first.
No, I go first all the time.
Okay, fine. I'm gonna go. I'm happy with this because it's the first act of something bigger, but they haven't really laid that out for me yet. And by the third episode, I would feel like I should know. Like I should know that Luthen is recruiting him for something specific.
That makes sense.
Like,
okay.
Hey, I want you in the rebellion for sure, but like give me a hint at Lucian's motivations because I refuse to believe that he's just like, this guy has so much good talent, we love having him, blah blah blah, whatever. Okay, I refuse to believe that he's just randomly like, he's so talented. Give me more, man. Give me more. That being said, I'm gonna go with a 9. I'm gonna go with a 9 out of 10. Which I know you're like, oh, it's so critical, Mr. Know-It-All. Whatever, shut up, okay? It's my system. But I'm going to go with a 9. It wasn't a 10 because I still don't know where we're going. But if they keep going like this and they give us good stuff, it could very well be a 10 season where there will be a 10 at some point. So for me, it was a 9.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 9 as well. I wanted to see where you were going with it.
Were you really?
Yeah, because I can't give it a 10 yet,
right.
Like you said.
It hasn't blown me away.
It hadn't blown me away. I was in. I was all in on it. And I can't find anything wrong with it, but I think it'd be too much for me to say, oh, it's a 10. It didn't blow my mind. It was really good. I was focused. I was in it. So I have to say 9. And if you want to blame the droid this time, I'll take that.
We got up a little bit early in anticipation of the show, and so she was like, "I'm getting really tired. I'm getting sleepy." And as soon as you turned it on, we're like halfway through the first episode. She's like, "I'm gonna do the review with you." And we're watching, and it kept our attention. Yeah. It kept our attention for the entire time for all 3 episodes, and I was really impressed by that. Mm-hmm. So right on, man. All right, well, comment below. Let us know what you thought. We'd love to have you guys join the Know-It-All Nation by subscribing to the channel. Because it always helps with the algorithms, so to speak. And share the show. But, yeah, man. Other than that, I think that's a wrap for this week. We'll see you next week. Never forget.
Everyone loves to know it all.
Bam. Talk to you later.
Bye.